Ty France, Mitch Haniger, and Cal Raleigh are all expected to be back in the Mariners lineup today. That's three of the better bats in the Mariners lineup. Ty France, along with Josh Rojas, are the best batters in the lineup this season, both batting over 300. Rojas actually batting 417. Today's starters will be Jose Berrios, who has 8 strikeouts in 12 innings and a 2.0 ERA. And Luis Castillo, who is 0-2 and has a 6.75 ERA. The lineups are not out yet because it is just before noon. I'm making this video now because for most of my day, I'll be focusing on the solar eclipse. Toronto Blue Jays and Seattle Mariners players will likely be able to witness it if they exit the Rogers Center between batting practice and the game, or at some point during the day. I think that's pretty cool that a lot of teams will be able to do that. Mariners are still striking out 10.5 times per game through 10 games, so that's not good. I'm not happy about that. Mariners need to cut down on the strikeouts. They're facing a guy who only has 8 strikeouts in 12 innings so far this season, so I fully suspect him to double or even triple his strikeout total and possibly even throw a perfect game against us. Because for some reason, we go and make fringe pitchers look like Cy Young candidates. It'll be our number one pitcher, but Luis Castillo has not looked like a number one so far this year, having had multiple games, both games, with command issues and giving up a lot of runs for no reason. Cal Raleigh back in the game means that we'll have a catcher who can get on base and won't be an automatic out, which is going to be useful, as Sebi Zavala has yet to get on base, makes some of the most ridiculous throws I've ever seen while attempting to throw people out stealing, and has some of the most ridiculous plate discipline I've ever seen in my life. Ty France coming back is pretty good because that allows us to have another bat in the lineup that will help. He is expected to be back. He may not be. It all depends on what happens with him coming through customs, as he'll have to go through customs as a regular person today. Because he's coming from Seattle, where he was with his wife for the birth of their child, which, happy for him. Mitch Haniger had the day off yesterday so that he could be used for all 3 games in Toronto, and the Mariners will have a day off on Thursday, so I expect him to not have a day off on the weekend series back in Seattle either. Very exciting to have those 3 bats back in the lineup. J.P. Crawford needs to start moving along and do some better things with his hitting. He's batting below the Mendoza line, very much below the Mendoza line. Julio's batting 207, doesn't have a home run yet on the season, which I was surprised that he didn't have a home run yet within the first 10 games, but I do think he is getting better. Scott Service said the other day that he's working on some stuff with his swing timing, which I don't know what happened in spring training or over the offseason where he has to work on his swing timing. This is 3 consecutive years that Julio's come out slow at the beginning of the season, and I'm worried about that, because if that continues for his career, it's not going to be good, because he's here for the next 9 seasons. And when we lose these games earlier in the season and then miss the playoffs by a game, it's annoying, because you don't want to miss the playoffs by a game. And a lot of people have been saying it's early, but it is not quite early. It's to the point where we have to start worrying about what moves we might need to make, which one of the moves we're probably going to need to make is something going on with catcher. Harry Ford didn't get on base last night in the minor leagues, so he's definitely not going to get called up to replace Sebi Zavala. I would not mind having Garver play catcher for a game or 2. He is our full-time DH, but have him play catcher for a game or 2. Have Cal be the DH, have Dylan Moore be the DH. Yeah, if you give Cal a day off and put Dylan Moore in at DH, then you don't run the risk of losing the designated hitter spot, unless you do something dumb like Arizona did against the Yankees. I genuinely can't believe they did that, but that's what happens. They ran out of position players. And if you use your DH, if your DH enters the game in another defensive position, you lose your DH. And with a catcher, that's where your DH could have to come in. which is why we're carrying 3 catchers on the roster, but one's a full-time DH. So if for some reason Zavala and Cal can't go, Garver can, but we'd lose the DH if it happened in the middle of a game. Toronto is not the greatest team. They're batting under 200 as a team, and they don't have a lot of strikeouts either, so of the opposing team's hitters. So I'm expecting this to be either a very competitive game or a pitcher's duel. But by pitcher's duel, I just mean offensive ineptitude from both teams.